Little Hands, Big Attitude Book 5 The Thief and the Sleeper Chapter 22 One question answered, more questions asked. As interesting as the video games Sonic and Tails had been showing him were, Shadow found himself wiped out, and he slumped into a deep sleep before the sun was all the way down. No nightmares, no sudden flickers of panic that pulled him back out, just dead to the world. It wasn't until a gentle hand touched his head and stroked his quills that he stirred, the drowsiness lingering in his eyes as he opened them.
What?
Shadow, sweetie.
Shadow's eyes searched the darkness until he found the source of the voice, and then he rubbed the sleep from them and sat up as Maddie crouched over him.
Good morning.
Morning already?
He looked out the window, seeing the sky was still dark, but he heard movement and saw Silver was also pulling himself up.
I'm gonna take you and Silver down to the clinic so I can hand him off to Allison and get a better look at your leg. I know it's early, but...
No, I'm awake.
Shadow yawned, taking her hand as she helped him to his feet. He limped away from where Sonic and Tails still slumbered on the floor, finding Rouge shoving a pastry in her mouth in the kitchen.
You're up too.
Been up. I'm nocturnal.
Maddie gave the bat a smirk, and then handed both Shadow and Silver a pastry.
Here, you can eat your Pop-Tarts on the way.
Both hedgehogs nodded and yawned, following her towards the front door. The air that blew in was frigid and harsh, but they quickly hurried out onto the porch and then made their way to the car.
Drive slow, Miss Maddie. The roads can be treacherous with this much snow.
I'll keep that in mind, Silver, thanks.
The ride was without much conversation, both of the teenage hedgehogs sitting in their seats, trying their best not to fall asleep again. Silver failed, but with how sick he'd been the day before, Shadow wasn't really surprised he was exhausted. He peeked out the window cautiously, trying to make sure he wasn't seen, but there was hardly a soul on the streets, in cars or on the sidewalks. Thank goodness for snow. The van crunched in the frozen substance as it came to a stop in the parking lot, only one other car present. Maddie helped them out to the back door, unlocked it, and then all three of them slipped inside. Shadow looked around the dark halls as he limped after the woman. The air smelled sterile, and he didn't like that smell. Like a lot of other things, the scent seemed to be pulling on his memory, trying to bring up something he had locked away, or someone had locked away for him. He rubbed his arms, his ears folding back a bit.
I'm not sure I like this place.
I'm sure it doesn't make you comfortable, Shadow, but I promise I won't do anything you don't agree to.
Shadow nodded, and then looked up as he heard other footsteps.
Miss Maddie.
A purple cat came running around the corner, her eyes lighting up as she saw Silver.
Silver. You are all right.
Yeah, oof.
Silver winced as the cat crashed into him, her arms tightly wrapped around him.
Yeah, I'm okay, Blaze.
I was so worried. You left the clinic so quickly, and then I did not hear anything about you and,
Hey, it's okay.
Silver pulled his arms free to hug her back.
I'm just fine, Gaw.
He winced, as did Shadow, as the hall was suddenly lit up.
Aw, lights.
Sorry, kiddos.
Another woman appeared at the end of the hall, a smile on her face.
Hello, you must be Shadow. Rouge talked a lot about you.
Yeah, that's me.
Blaze released Silver and came to Shadow, taking his hand with both of her own and shaking it gently.
Greetings, I am Blaze. Silver and I live with Miss Allison.
Hello, Blaze.
Maddie smiled at the trio of children, and then motioned for Shadow to follow as Blaze took Silver's hand and they left the hall with their caretaker.
Come on, let's get a look at that leg.
Shadow nodded, limping after her.
What kind of tests are you going to do on me?
I'll draw a little blood and look for infection and an X-ray. We'll see what we can find out from that, plus a checkup to get an idea of your overall health.
Shadow rubbed his arms again.
Okay, and if it gets too much, I can say stop and you'll listen to me.
Maddie paused, bending down to his level.
Of course, sweetheart. I want you to be able to trust me, and that means that I'll respect your comfort levels. If it's too much, I'll stop.
Shadow swallowed.
They didn't, that's all.
You remember?
Not really. It's just...
Shadow looked to his hands and then closed them into fists.
I just know it somehow.
Fair enough, come on. X-rays first.
Maddie led the way into one of the rooms, where Shadow saw a large table with a machine hovering over it.
So, how does this machine work?
It's an X-ray machine. It'll take pictures of the inside of your leg so we can find out what's causing your leg to hurt.
Shadow looked at the machine with curiosity.
Pictures of the inside. Does it hurt?
No, not at all.
Maddie offered her hands, and Shadow hesitantly allowed her to pick him up, putting him up on the table. As he sat down on it, he ran his hand over it slowly. It was plush and soft, with a sheet of paper covering the top. Why had he expected it to be metal, with clasps to keep his limbs in place?
Okay, now just lay down here.
She helped him lie down on his back, facing up at the ceiling, before pulling the machine lower and closer to his injured leg.
Just keep still for a second while I use the machine to take pictures.
Okay.
Shadow closed his eyes, trying to think of something else, something better. Maddie took several images, carefully shifting the leg so she could get as effective of an angle as possible. Once done, she took Shadow into another room to collect a small blood sample to check the cell count for infection, and give him a more thorough look over than she'd done at the house. Shadow didn't talk, but did everything she asked of him, and seemed grateful when she was finished. She took him into one of the offices where Silver and Blaze already were, and Blaze was more than willing to share the colored pencils so that all three of them could draw. The sun was beginning to lighten the sky now, and as Maddie headed for the back room to examine the X-ray results, she heard the back door open. She peered around the corner, seeing Tom and Agent Tower both entering the building.
Honey?
I was just stopping by on my way in, and he
Tom pointed to Tower.
had some things he wanted to discuss with you, apparently.
Fine, but I'm watching you.
Maddie rolled her eyes.
The kids are all in the office coloring, and we were just about to check the results.
Sounds like a plan. Mind if I take a peek?
The four adults made their way into the dark room, Maddie reaching into the folder and pulling out two of the prints and placing them up on the light box.
Okay, let's see what we've got.
Maddie's eyes widened as she looked at the image.
Oh my gosh.
Agent Tower nodded as he agreed with the veterinarian.
Well, there's your problem, right there.
Tom leaned over his wife's shoulder.
Is that...
Yeah, Tom, the poor baby's got bullet shrapnel in his leg. Surely they knew about this when they put him in stasis, right? He's spent 50 years with shrapnel in his leg. It's no wonder he can't walk on it.
So what do we do?
Remove it, obviously.
Would that even help? The level of pain it's bringing him just to have someone touch his leg.
Definite infection even without looking at the white blood cell count. And even if we do remove the shrapnel, the chances of the existing nerve damage still keeping him crippled is high.
Her brows furrowed.
Maddie, you know what's best for him.
We can't just amputate his leg, Allison. He barely knows me and has been through enough already. What would he think if I just decided to cut part of his body off? Not to mention we don't have the right kind of staff for that sort of procedure here in Green Hills. Not on a humanoid hedgehog anyways.
Then we ask someone else to help.
Who? Who could we trust with that and not give him away?
Tom shrugged, tilting his head to the side.
What about Dr. Riley?
Tom.
Maddie, you know my dad's one of the best surgeons in the business. Plus, he and my mom are both coming into town in the next few days for the holidays. Perfect timing. They're gonna find out anyway. My mom's already accidentally talked to Blaze on the phone when she answered it a few weeks ago.
Agent Tower sighed.
See? Told ya, it would be messy. So, Miss Riley's dad comes into town, we explain the situation, see if he'll perform the procedure. Try to keep it as quiet as possible.
While the government agents are still crawling around, then what? He can't run.
He can't run right now either, Mads.
Tom put his hands on her shoulders.
We aren't making a decision today, but think about it.
Maddie grumbled, grabbing her husband's hands and squeezing them.
I'll think about it.
Good. In the meantime, what was it you wanted to talk to us about, Tower?
Agent Tower crossed his arms, looking at the images once more.
I'm not really sure Shadow's the one my fellow agents are looking for.
What do you mean?
Agent Tower stood up a little straighter.
Listen, the entirety of Project Shadow is kept very, very private. Only a handful of people would have known how Gerald managed it.
Somehow, Gerald makes this creature, this ultimate life form, with powers beyond anything anyone has ever seen. The government wants it for their own uses, so they attack the Ark in an effort to capture it.
Yes?
We haven't found a way to splice nature and make a whole new being even now with our advanced technology, especially not one with a conscience and sense of right and wrong. A sense of self, and yet we're supposed to believe that he managed it 50 years ago. But
He pointed to Tom.
A little over a year ago, Sonic appears on the scene. He's a hedgehog, just like Shadow, but an alien from another world.
who got here through a controlled wormhole in time and space, and possesses a power that is similar to that of Shadow's, but manifests in a different way.
Tom nodded slowly.
I see, you think Shadow might not be a result of science at all.
It makes more sense than what we were told if you really think about it. Professor Robotnik is struggling to make a viable specimen. The government is threatening to cut his funding to stop his efforts. Then, out of nowhere, this tiny, little, baby hedgehog is warped onto the space station from who knows where. Nobody knows where he came from, so it's the perfect ruse. Reveal Shadow as his successful creation, continue to receive his funding, and maybe find what he's looking for through experimentation on Shadow as he grows.
What he says makes sense, but how could we prove that?
Working on that. It may get me in loads of trouble, but if it can keep that kid safe, worth it.
The four adults looked to each other, and then nodded. Shadow wasn't really drawing pictures or coloring like Blaze or Silver were, he was writing. Writing down everything he knew and could remember about himself.
I grew up on a space station called Space Colony Ark. I was raised by Professor Robotnik and his granddaughter Maria, who was like my sister. A group of humans wanted to take me, so they attacked the station and hurt people. I was captured and put in cold sleep. I was woken up by Rouge 50 years later and met by, I guess it would be Maria's cousin, Dr. Robotnik, his friend Stone, my mom.
Shadow paused, his pencil still pressed to the paper where he'd finished the last letter.
Mom?
He whispered. Why had he written that? He didn't have a mom, or at least, Agent Stone hadn't mentioned that Professor Robotnik had a wife who'd helped raise him. He supposed he must have at some point if he had grandchildren. He set that thought aside, skipping to the next line.
They didn't respect my boundaries. I don't like labs or tests, because they didn't stop when I asked.
He remembered and yet he didn't. He couldn't remember any particular moments of it happening, but the fear that had crept into his chest the moment he smelled the inside of the clinic, the moment he'd seen the x-ray table and been surprised it wasn't designed to keep him from escaping. He didn't like any of it. It meant that he'd been held down, forced to do things he didn't want to, perhaps even hurt, when he was little, and it was still affecting him. Of course he'd been put in a freezer for 50 years, surely he hadn't consented to that.
Shadow?
Shadow looked up, seeing both Silver and Blaze looking at him.
Are you alright? You are trembling.
Shadow looked down at his hands and realized he was shaking, his teeth clenched like he was cold and shivering.
I don't know. I don't like this place.
Do not be afraid, though we understand your apprehension towards this place.
You do?
Shadow realized he knew nothing about the siblings.
Were you hurt too?
Not like you. But the two of us grew up fighting to survive. Our home was devastated, and we only had each other.
He rubbed his arms.
Food was scarce, as was safe places to rest. It has only been a short amount of time since we arrived here, but we are still having to get used to the fact that food is not too hard to find here. Miss Allison has to remind us not to hoard food in places as if we expect it to not be there when we need it later.
All of this is to say that each of us has parts of our past that we are still having to deal with.
Blaze wrung her hands together.
Scars take time to heal.
Shadow nodded slowly.
How did you come here?
We do not know that as of yet.
Perhaps fate stepped in on our behalf, but one moment we were scavenging for scraps amongst the ruins, and then the next, we awoke in the mountains outside of Green Hills. There was a light, but we have chosen not to worry about how we came here, for it is better here than it was where we came from.
Shadow rubbed his arms, closing his eyes.
I don't know where I came from.
I've been told I was made, but I don't know how that can be so and yet look so much like I came from your world. I don't remember who I am or what I'm supposed to do. What Stone told me might have been wrong, but it also feels right too.
Do not fret over the past, Shadow. Who you were then does not make who you are now. Who do you want to be now?
I want to be good.
Well, I think you're doing pretty well of that thus far.
Thanks. Do you really think we can get the agents to leave me alone?
I don't know what the future may hold, but I do know that the adults will do everything they can to keep you safe.
You're sure?
Absolutely.